When I got to the United States, I realized this is completely different form of practicing medicine. It's more of actually running a business of medicine. And at that time, I realized that I don't want to be in that business. I had an option of, after finishing my business degree, of going into that because that could have been an easy extension with my background in medicine to do that. I did not want to be part of that structure. I felt that there are other ways of making money, and I'd probably pick the most lucrative at that time in Las Vegas. I went into the casino and gaming business. That was a choice of a young, hungry, and eager to make its fortune heart made.
Welcome to Age of Reinvention. Redefine freedom, lifestyle, and purpose at midlife. The podcast where we explore the inspiring journeys of those who have redefined their lives in the search for freedom, purpose, and the new lifestyle. Immigrants and expats share their personal experiences of adaptation and reinvention as midlife offers new opportunities for reinvention. I'm your host, Emily Braun. Today, we delve into a story that bridges cultures, continents, and careers. In this episode, we are thrilled to have Kirill Mendelson with us. Kirill's adventure began in 1991 when, still a student at Moscow Medical University, he moved from Russia to the United States. His tale is not just about geographical relocation, but about navigating life with a vision to find and define his new purpose and lifestyle. From the newcomer struggles to adapting to a new country and environment, to achieving personal and professional milestones in several industries, and the last one being environmental safety, Kirill provides us with a first-hand account of transformation and resilience. Join us as we uncover Kirill Mendelson redefined his freedom, embraced a new lifestyle, and discovered a renewed purpose in life through the prism of immigration. Kirill, welcome to the Age of Reinvention.
Thanks for having me.
Kirill, we've had already several immigration stories in the Age of Reinvention, but your story is not standard, quite different. Your journey to the US in 1991 is a starting point of your personal reinvention on the North American continent. Can you share with us what motivated your move from Russia and some initial challenges you faced upon arriving?
We had a long family history connected to the United States because my grandparents actually migrated to the United States back in 1921 during a civil war in Soviet Russia. They came to New York as a 14 and 16-year-old teenagers without knowing each other. They came from the same city, Yekaterinslav, which is Dnipro today, and got educated in New York, and then decided that during the Great Depression and during the times of uncertainty, that ideas of socialism and communism were close to their heart. My grandfather joined American Communist Party and was working for a company called Amthor, which was handling not just trade relationship, but diplomatic relationship with a new state, new Soviet state. So in 1931, he was asked if he would be interested in working back in Russia in building the new state and the cultural propaganda, if you want to say, that would help people understand what the state is offering to the world and what the new ideas are. But he went to take a look at what was offered and actually suggested that they would move with his wife, my grandmother, and my newly born dad. They moved back in 1931. They dedicated their life to American literature and stayed in Russia for the rest of their lives. Luckily for them, nobody suffered from repressions, even though at some point my grandfather was head of the English speaking chapter for Russian radio committee and had access to not just the world news, but all the publications that were available in Russia for of the English speaking people. He stayed loyal to the idea, not to the system. He thought that it was something that would bring quality and better future for people. And I would say, luckily, he died in 1982, prior to collapse of both the system and what he believed would be a future, not the generation, but for our social economic norms. On my end, I was always interested in America because of that connection. All of our relatives on both grandfather and grandmother's side were in the United States, and there was a continuous communication going on despite the Iron Curtain. The letters were going through, relatives were traveling back and forth. People were visiting Moscow. They were going to US to visit relatives. So surprisingly, it was allowed. And they invited us to come visit in 91, as it was my first trip. It was the second trip for my father. And during that trip, I advised him that I really don't plan to go back. I wanted to get back, which was a surprise for my dad, but he supported me in that decision. And based again on the historical precedent from our family, we were able to find documents to support our ability to stay here and immigrate formally and officially.
Interesting. Why your father was surprised by your desire to stay in the United?
Because I was in the third year of medical school, he thought that I should go back and finish my degree and then make that determination. And I told him that I can always transfer my credits to US university and continue my education here, which I did in UNLV. And I finished my pre-med education. And then I decided that I want to add business administration as a second degree, and chose business versus medicine.
Okay, but did you actually comprehend this idea before the trip in 1991? It was premeditated, it just happened.
No, it's something that came along once I landed here. I felt, I wouldn't say at home, but it definitely felt better than I felt in Russia. My childhood and my youth was probably a life of comfort compared to what the rest of my citizens experienced at that time. It was definitely something that I felt would give me more freedom and ability to express myself, and never looked back. Definitely made that decision quickly and stayed with it. And this is a country that gave me more than what I could have imagined back in 91.
I understand you didn't have language challenges. English was part of your upbringing at home, I assume. But even with your knowledge of American life and relatives, communication with grandparents, adapting to a new country often comes with its own set of surprises and cultural adjustments. Can you recall any specific experiences that were particularly surprising or challenging for you at the beginning?
Yeah, you're right. I had both family history of English exposure as well as school. I was studying English since I was in the second grade. The challenge is it was academic. I was not fluent speaker when I got to US, and it was even difficult to carry a daily conversation or order food because, first of all, I didn't know much about the cuisine. Second, you don't have a practice of daily conversations. You learn topics, as we call them, about political events or geographical locations, but you are not that freely in expressing both the opinions or carrying a conversation. So that took a while. It took at least a year to get adapted to that. And the news programs were quite helpful in that. I planted myself in front of the TV and was listening to the TV hosts to catch up on that. Was actually pretty helpful. But then on reverse, I had another story because a year later I went back to Moscow and I happened to visit the school that I graduated from. And at the same time, an English professor who was an exchange professor who was teaching in my school while I was there came to visit the school. So I was in a meeting with him and all of English staff, and they were all frozen. They would not be able to carry that simple everyday conversation with him because, again, their knowledge comes from formal education and formal ability to express themselves. And of the ease of communication that him and I had did not exist in their vocabulary. It did not exist in their practice. So they felt very much at awe of their student that graduated just recently who was able to do that after such a short period of time. So it all comes with internal freedom of expression that was lacking. And it also comes from experience of understanding the language structure, which you only can get from practicing it with native speakers.
And I believe just living your day-to-day life in US, probably you were facing kind of new challenge, a part of life that you were not familiar even back in Moscow, because I understand it was just you and your dad, like you need actually to build your new home life. I'm not sure if relatives probably were supporting you, but it was discovery of the new world and actually how this world is working. Yes, on a day-to-day level.
Absolutely. And self-discover the world around us. Absolutely.
Immigration is profound experience for everyone. I believe, even for you, with your preparation, I would say, and support around. And it shapes one perspective and worldview. What are some valuable lessons you learned from your immigration journey?
For me, there were a number of discoveries in the first years. First, my ability to change the major in university was a big deal because all of my life, I grew up in a medical family, both parents, doctors, uncle is a doctor, my brother's paramedic. So I could not imagine anything but. And as I was even preparing for my university admissions in Russia, all of the other options were either neglected or criticized, I would say, for lighter word, like criticized by the parents. And going through both the high school and university experience in Russia, getting into American university, having a freedom of deciding which classes you're taking, the format that you're teaching or learning rather, the ability to change your major, ability to change the groups of people you associate with yourself was very unique immigration experience and educational experience. Because as in Russia, once you get into your school, you stay with the same class for all 10 years, unless you transfer to different school. Same thing with university. Once you get in, you are part of the same group of people for the next 5, 6 years. That melting pot or that introduction to a variety of interests and ability to decide for yourself that there's not a pravkom, there's not a consort that look after you. It's all on you to decide how you're going to navigate through it. There's plenty of support, but it's on you. That was a turning point for me. Loved it. Second, ability to reach out and get support, additional training, not from private tutors, but structural tutoring, either from Kaplan or from modern educational programs that actually teach you how to succeed throughout your educational process. That did not exist there as well. In 91, it was introduction of internet. Internet did not exist in Russia. So it was a whole new world of internet, emails, communication, which did not exist. So from that standpoint, that was an eye-opening experience. And I realized that this is a future. This is a country that has much more potential, and I have much more potential within it than I ever thought of possible while I was in Russia.
Why you still change your professional direction from medical, which was part of your family upbringing, to something else, even it's interesting?
That was another both cultural and socioeconomic change because I grew up with more of a holistic approach to medicine that was practiced by my parents, and it was not business oriented. For them, patients were first, and they would spend a lot of time providing services in a remote location outside of Moscow as social service. At that time, we had a village house that they would help people with their prescriptions or their medical concerns. And for me, it was almost like Chekhov idea of a doctor that I would follow. I had my own vision of parents as well as my own idea what medicine is about. And when I got to the United States, I realized this is completely different form of practicing medicine. It's more of actually running a business of medicine. And at that time, I realized that I don't want to be in that business. I had an option of after finishing my business degree of going into that because that could have been an easy extension with my background in medicine to do that. I did not want to be part of that structure. I felt that there are other ways of making money, and I'd probably picked the most lucrative at that time in Las Vegas. I went into the casino and gaming business. That was a choice of a young, hungry, and eager to make its fortune heart made.
So nothing was left from the Chekhov's ideas, and maybe at this point of life, but interesting. But it's a life of immigrants, and it's good that you've had this choice, and actually that you quickly realized that medical field in United States, actually to study it's pretty hard, but all following dimension, I would say, really far away from what we still dream, at least I dream, in regards to medical professionals. But again, you lived your life, you graduated from selected business direction, you started one business, you decided after some time, I believe, to transfer or reinvent yourself in a different one. Speaking about integration on the personal level, at least in many of immigrants, and I am immigrants, and I live all my life in between immigrants in each country I'm living, even in neighborhood now here in suburb of Toronto. And I know that integrating to the new culture and finding your social circle or community, as we say here, can be a long and significant aspect of the immigration experience. In addition to lack of time and all this, how did you find your tribe or community in the US? And what advice would you give to others trying to find the sense of belonging?
So for me, I was lucky to have unique individuals coming through UNLV. It was a mixed culture, and we had people who were local to Las Vegas. We had people who came to study and then remained my friends up to that, up to we graduated. My international travels allowed me to be in touch with people throughout the world. So I can't say that I had an issue of integration. It was more of relating people and their lives. And once you are able to understand the challenges, it doesn't matter what nationality you're from. A lot of people are going through the same challenges. I didn't have any difficulty making friends or building that social circle. And then we moved to California in 21. The number of, again, multicultural contacts and acquaintances that became long-term friends has only grew. This has not been an issue until I would say the new discovery came in 2017 when we first participated in Burning Man. That was definitely a game changer because the type of people that is attracted to that by that community and that movement is very different. And I definitely felt more connection and more ability to learn about myself and discover about myself in the past 7 years than I would say since I moved to this country.
Excellent. And I'm sorry that Burning Man, I think, in the past, as of now, at least as far as I know, in the format it was originally created. Yes? Or
It was originally started in San Francisco back in '89, and then it moved to the desert outside of Reno, and that has been ongoing since then. So it's this year, probably it was a smaller gathering, just 50,000 strong, but it went as high as 75,000 people gathering for a week. And it's opportunity for people to express themselves, reinvent themselves, create art, create ability to learn not just about themselves, but the world around them. So it's an amazing platform for an exchange of people's ideas and creativity.
what language do you speak at home?
It's a mix. Surprisingly, kids caught up with Russian language in the past couple of years. Before, when they were going through middle school, it was mostly English related homework and other assignments. But they made a shift themselves in the high school to the community that is Russian speaking kids coming from immigrant families. They feel closer to their values and their interests. So their Russian definitely improved and they want to practice it more. So it's a combination of both English and Russian.
And I believe you speak more than two languages due to your business
I speak a little bit of Spanish because of my work in Central America, but it's really rudimentary.
And now I would like to speak a little about our immigrant children who are actually, by definition, third culture children. And as the vocabulary is specified, it's actually not only children, adults belong to this group as well. If they were raised as a third culture children, it's a people who were raised in culture or other than their parents or the culture of their country of nationality, and also live in a different environment during a significant part of the child development. I don't know how in your case, but in my case, when I immigrated first time, I had a 1-year-old baby, and my second daughter was born in Canada after big time. And even we and I was living always in mixed but immigrant professional communities. I felt our children, with all our desire to give them the best opportunities, and from educational standpoint and vacation and attention. And I was lucky, happy enough that at least in Israel, my parents were around. It was this generational support, which I believe it's important for children. And here in Canada, but our children, as I learned later in life, actually this unique upbringing shaped their identity, worldview, and adaptability, which is positive qualities. And they usually have the following characteristic, like cultural flexibility, because they understand that their parents coming from different culture. And sometimes, as I remember, my child was speaking, for example, Hebrew and obviously English better than me at the beginning. They have different global perspective comparing with classmates or friends around. They have different language skills, usually because they bilingual at least, or trilingual sometimes if our parents coming from the different culture. And they have a certain level of resilience as they supposed to learn to cope with frequent moves, changes, and sometimes saying goodbyes to the old friends or relatives. But with all the above, I would say excellent qualities to survive in our quickly changing world as of now, they often or sometimes struggle to define their sense of belonging and cultural identity. Maybe for some of them, it's not important at the beginning in childhood, but when they came out of the nest or they looking to like social identity in the big circle, they might also struggle to find their place in the world and might feel sometimes outsiders in any culture. Would you agree with me? What are your observations?
So we had both of those cases with my children. My son is 19-year-old. My daughter is 17-year-old. They felt both Russian at some point, then they felt American, then they felt when they wanted to combine the best of two worlds. We were blessed with help from grandparents. My in-laws were picking them up from school and taking care of them until we pick them up after work. So we had a chance to both spend time with them and learn Russian from them, practice Russian with them, as well as be exposed to Russian culture from cartoons, movies, books, storytelling. This always have been a blessing. Also, lacking some of the cultural references from American childhood, obviously, is evident when they speak to their friends. Their choice of books that they read, the music that they listen is more diverse than their peers. Their independence, I think, is more pronounced. They are not as concerned with other people's opinions as their friends are, for example. They're definitely more independent thinkers and they're definitely more comfortable in their skin. The English is still their I would say, primary language, but having second language and ability to understand this other culture helps them during the international travels. They don't feel isolated. They don't feel homesick as easily as their friends who come abroad. They have more curiosity to learn about things around them. So I think it benefited them. There obviously it handicapped them as well, but I think it benefited them more than handicapped.
So you think like they better prepared for the life than say children from local family, as they say.
From a single language family and that are not exposed to culture, and I would say that they are more willing to listen to opposite of view or a view that is very different from them. They're willing to understand where the person is coming from. And this came about because my son decided to take interest in Judaism much more than we ever practiced. And one of the assignments was understanding the nature of the conflict between Palestine and Israel. And it wasn't just a dogma that is being presented on both sides. It's actually understanding the emotions and people's stories as they can relate to the conflict and what exactly would be the solution, a long-term solution. So he was, even though he has his perspective from, again, coming from a Jewish family and from a perspective of Israel, he was very interested in understanding what the other side is besides the talking points. We're not talking about the protests on the university campuses. We're talking about people who actually had a firsthand experience or knew what they were talking about, not that they were just, for a better word, brainwashed into believing into something. So for him, he would like to understand, to make his own conclusions, not just based on the political subjects, but on other experiences. He lived in Israel for a year and a half. He understands the struggles that the Israeli have, and he is adamant about keeping the faith and practicing Judaism much more than I ever did. It's not an easy task, but he is willing to take that route to explore what about both the spiritual path and the personal growth will come out of it.
Kudos to him and kudos to you, because I understand how it's not easy for parents of our generation with kind of all education we get, but it was more like cultural. We were more, our upbringing was more atheistic rather, actually cultural rather than to speak about any religion. And I know that many, even my friends from school and later on, actually came to religion, each of them their own way. I really respect the choice our children are doing if they're so independent to decide, and God bless him. Now, speaking about you, after many years of living in United States, do you feel, who are you today? American? Russian? How do you balance or integrate your Russian heritage, maybe some other heritage, with your American life?
Definitely affiliate myself as an American Jew that was born in Russia. Russian language, Russian culture, and Russian heritage is definitely part of my upbringing, but definitely feel that my Jewish roots and my American upbringing is as valuable to me as Russian. I actually spend more time living in this country versus I was 20 when I got here. And I've been in this country for 33 years. It's definitely a better and more conscious part of my life that I can assign to this country.
Many people of my generation, at least, and I say, in my case, that my roots are actually not in Russia, I would say, in former Soviet Union, to be correct. My body is now, or for the last 27 years here in Canada, but my soul in a different place. And it's a personal choice how we feel where we are. And let's speak a little bit about your vision for the future. And I'm lately afraid to use the word retirement, because retirement has such a connotation of something. Even I say retirement from the past, there is still some bias coming with this word that life is supposed to stop. In my definition, retirement from the past, it's actually opening of the new chapter of possibilities and opportunities. And sometimes for many of people around me, finally to have time and sometimes financial means to do what you like, what you wanted. Maybe something that you couldn't materialize in the past, being immigrant, having a family, raising children. And I understand you still have children in a college and school. I can tell you more. My children are after college already, and I'm still feel that they, in my case, not independent enough in this market because of time and specifics. But like I was asking myself, where finally will be my time? In it's actually it's where my business started to go up. As I wish and I believe that after 50, for somebody after 60, depending how life developed, we still have 20, 30 years of pretty active, and if we are healthy, good life, that we really have opportunity to reinvent ourselves, launch new business, enjoy new hobbies, start new projects, travel the world, whatever. There are so many options which actually Age of Reinvention podcast is discovering, and I'm discovering how people see or what people do or how they navigate their life at this period between 50 and above. What about you?
So both my wife and I are very lucky of owning our own business. So we are definitely enjoying the freedom that gives us. We're able to take time off. So we travel 3, sometimes 4 times a year around the world. And this is our passion. There was a phrase when we were growing up, «Мир путешественников глазами всегда». So we don't want to have world travel or magazine presented by somebody else's experience. We want to have it on, or we can use it as a reference, but we want to have it on our own. And there's a lot of places on the map that we haven't visited. And though we've been in more than 50 countries, we're far from our goal of having 120 countries by the age of 60.
Oh, you do have bucket list 120?
We do, yes.
Okay, so you're working on a plan actually, how it how it works for you.
Yes, we did have a plan, and we always have fighting priorities, what countries we're going to. Sometimes it's not easy, but then again, family, friends, and group travel come interfere with those plans. But we do have the idea of where we want to be by the time 60 comes around. Also, by the time 60 comes around, for me at least, I am hoping that the kids will be out of college and we will have more ability to travel long term, not just for a couple of weeks. So hoping to live in certain countries 3 to 4 months, learn more about culture, people, submerge ourselves in experiencing that. And we obviously looking at European continent as a base. A couple of countries come to mind, and it's a project that we probably will get more serious in a couple of years to see what the living conditions are, visa requirements, and all of the things that will allow us to do either temporary residence or full-time residence. We'll see how it goes.
So you definitely have your preparation plans for your next life chapter. It's not yet specified because you mentioned you have 6 or so years, yes, and things are changing. But you understand that the preparation, like not the carved stone, should start already.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But we just like many listeners, probably we are sandwich generation. So we'll take care of both the kids and parents. So between those two factors, a lot of things are predetermined by that. So we have limited ability to choose a long-term absence.
So do you see yourself, say, in all stars in correct orders for us, yourself spending years on slow travel, going from country to country?
Slow travel, there are a number of nonprofit organizations that allow expats to participate in those countries, learning local languages, extending our ability to be active both in our professional fields as well as active physically. Those are the goals. Now, and from a standpoint of travel, it will coincide with our ability to actually participate in lives of the community that we will be living in. So we want to still be helpful and to those communities and participate in their lives, not just be their residents.
When you say community, do you mean expat community?
Most likely it will be expat community unless we're comfortable with the language and the ability to be part of the actual natives.
Okay, yes, I have interest to expat communities in different countries for years, actually for similar reason. And I can tell you that there is a certain dynamic happening in many countries and things are changing. And finally, our podcast is all about the different types and colors of reinvention after 50, 60, 70. How do you see the concept of reinvention playing a role in your life in the past, now, and shortly?
For me, reinvention occurs on a daily basis just for running a business. Acquiring this particular business 6 years required major reinvention of what I was used to. I was traveling around the world, dealing with placement of equipment in casinos throughout the world. We were servicing clients from Vietnam to Costa Rica to Guatemala and Brazil, all the way to Norway. So it's various tasks and I would say seasons of business that I have to address. So reinvention is just a must of any business. And as far as moving forward, I definitely want to have more of the self-discovery when it comes to either musical expression or in the form of a cultural expression. That was something that I feel has been lacking in my life. Even though I'm an avid listener to different forms of music, my connection to it can be definitely improved. And I definitely look forward to spending some time in structuring that.
Do you mean to learn new instrument, play new instrument?
Possibly learning an instrument. Yep. Possibly doing that. Yes.
Yeah, it's actually common and it's very good practice for the fingers and motoric and all the connection in between.
And delaying the Alzheimer's as well.
Yes, there's different recipes, and I believe even will be more soon. As a lot of people, at least I discovered lately in my research, were working on different type of longevity projects. I would say from different perspective, food perspective, physical activity, mental activities. Oh, even my podcast is working because no, I truly believe that to be engaged in new activity or to be passionate and continue to do what you like after 60, 70, 80, whatever, it's what make us alive. It's what really improve our quality of life and our health, mental and physical health. It's all obviously going together, but having purpose in life and redefining your lifestyle. What I mean in this context, like understanding what you can live without at this life stage and what you really need to be happy, which is different for different age. It's not a mystery. It's a big discovery that really would help navigate us the best chapter of our life.
Absolutely. And as you probably know from studying of the blue zones, that the things that are attributed to the longevity of life is a communal engagement, active daily routines, healthy diet, and ability to continuously live with purpose. And as long as we maintain those, I think we will have a very interesting years ahead of us.
Obviously. And by the way, speaking about blue zones, I was obsessed a couple of years ago about moving to Costa Rica because in Nicoya Peninsula, there is one of these famous blue zones. And after then, I was considering like Sardinia and this and there, but my criteria changed since. But I fully understand and support this decision and I can tell you there are development in regards to construction and actually activity of expats in many of the zones. So we will see how it's gonna work to the benefit of many people around.
I wanted to say that Nicoya is a great place. I spent quite a bit of time there. So definitely would recommend, even if you're not moving there, come visit. They have some healing practices there that definitely help people. And also the nature is amazingly rich in minerals and natural elements that help people feel much better.
Yes, I know. I like this research, and I think it's really my bucket list at the five times. But now I'm thinking about living this, which is details, social, careers, the virtual agents, and each hard stability,
Thank you, Kirill, for sharing your AI journey with us. You're going to share the version of it. I can use to live in Russia for your sexuality sites, your future retirement and redemption. And the best for you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Best for your podcast.
Special thanks to Kirill Mendelson for being so open and inspiring. Thank you, Kirill, for sharing your life journey with us. From your move from Russia to your thoughtful insights into future retirement and reinvention. Your story enriches our theme of redefining freedom and purpose in midlife. To our listeners, thank you for joining us today. We hope Kirill's narrative has inspired you to contemplate your life chapters and the possibilities each can bring, especially in transformative midlife years. We appreciate you tuning in today. Remember, midlife is not just an age, it's a chance to reinvent yourself, rediscover joy, and pursue passions with the wisdom of experience. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, Spotify, for more stories like Kirill's. Join us next time in the Age of Reinvention as we celebrate life's continuous journey of renewal and transformation. Thank you.